Hello and welcome everyone. Thanks for coming in to our functional fitness class. I'm your instructor, Quinn. We're going to be going over some good movements today throughout our workout, getting some solid full body work in, working on strength and just a little bit of mobility as well. So our workout is going to consist of a warm-up where we're going to do our quad rocks, getting the hips and legs stretched out, mobilized, and worked a little bit. And then we're going to have our pike to plank. We're going to work through the legs and the shoulder a little bit as well. And then our shoulder cars, really working on our rotation, mobility, and getting the back of our shoulder and our chest opened up there. And then we're going to go through our workout, starting with an eccentric push-up. So working real slow on the down phase, pressing back up and opening up to a rotation, slow back down, push up and opening up to a rotation. And then we're going to have our plank extensions. So one arm at a time, leg at a time, we're going to be in our plank position, extending our hands and feet out, picking them up off the ground, working on that stability and control. And then we're going to work into the rear part of our shoulders a little bit. So front of the chest, then getting the back with our snow angels. So hands out front, big broad strokes out to the side, bringing the hands around the lower back. And then we have our prone overhead press. So laying on our stomach, pulling our shoulders back and pressing the hands straight up overhead. And then after that, we're going to work into the lower body, starting with our glute bridges, getting our hips activated through the back side. And then working on our kickstand RDLs, getting our hamstrings nice and fired for our new exercise, which is going to be an eccentric squat and hold. So that same sort of slow pace down with the push-up, we're going to lower down into our squat nice and slow. We're going to hold at the bottom for about 3 seconds and come back up. And once we do our set of those, we're going to head into our side squats. Stepping out to the side, or lateral squats, as you might commonly hear them called. So that's going to be our workout. We're going to go through that circuit twice. And then once we're done with the second round, we're going to get into a little bit of stretching. We're going to do some thread the needle to work on stretching out that back. And again, opening up the chest a little bit. We're going to do a little bit of some elbow flies, again, to try and open up the chest and pull those muscles through the back. Get those shoulder blades really pinned down for the rest of the day. And then we're going to work through the hips, probably go into a little hurdler stretch because we're going to be working with our quads a lot today with those squats. And then as well as some deep hip muscles with our figure 4 stretch and a couple other things as well. So enough of me talking. We're going to head right into it with our quad rocks. So heading down to our mat, getting our knees, hands and knees, and extending one leg out to the side. We're going to rock back and forth, stretching out the back of the leg and coming forward, getting into that inner thigh. Make sure you're really sticking that leg far out to the side. You should be feeling it on the inside of your thigh here. You can also scoot that knee out, this knee, planted one, out a little bit wider to help separate the hips there a little bit as we rock back and forth. Getting a nice deep stretch, starting to just feel the body out and get moving here a little bit as we open up those hips. Okay, and switching sides, getting our other knee down and extending that leg out to the side. Rocking back and forth, getting the weight over our shoulders and our hands, and then rocking back into the hips. Moving back and forth. Nice and even. All right, and then from here, we're gonna go into our pike to plank. So we're gonna get our hips up into the air, our hands directly below the shoulders. We're gonna press those knees up, getting those hips up, hopping up into our pike pose. And from here, we're just gonna press through the hands, driving those heels into the ground, getting those hips up into the air, and then lowering the hips down, bringing the chest over the hands, getting nice and flat, and rocking back and forth from our plank back to our pike position. Moving nice and even, back and forth through this stretching / strength motion here. Getting our hips warmed up, our shoulders warmed up, our calves stretched out. Getting that strength and stability nice and active. All right, now from here, last one for the warm up, we're just gonna go into our shoulder cars. So hands and knees down, directly below the shoulder, directly below the hips. We're gonna extend one arm out, bringing that hand up and over, keeping our chest pointed down. We're gonna open up the hand to the outside and rotate out. Bringing that hand back down to the ground and opening up again. Bringing that hand out and around. Switching sides, bringing that opposite hand up, over, opening up the hand, reaching back towards the hip and coming back down to the ground and switching directions, rotating, bringing that hand up and open and flipping over again. Good. Now from here, I like to just do a couple of chest drops, keeping the elbows locked out, a couple of shoulder push-ups, getting that forward and backward mobility, really loosening up the shoulders. All right, now we're gonna head into our workout here. So we're gonna start with our eccentric push-up with rotation. Now, these can be, with the rotation, it can be a little difficult. So you can keep your knees down for that part if you'd like, or you can stay up for the whole time. I'm gonna keep my knees down just because I love the focus I can get through the chest as I am working here and giving a little bit off there with the weight. So from here, we're gonna have the hands just slightly wide from the chest, directly below the shoulder. We're gonna fold the elbows down, go nice and slow down to the ground and pressing up, rotating, opening up the shoulders and lowering back down. Really focusing on that press even through, rotating up, giving a quick hold. Make sure you're sucking that belly button up to spine, keeping those ribs and elbows tucked next to each other as we lower down, trying to get that weight directly stacked on top of the shoulder as we come up onto one hand. Nice, even pace, lowering down. Making sure we're pressing and lowering through both hands, nice and even. Couple more. And last one. Very good. All right. From here, we're going to head into our plank extension. So getting our feet back, hands underneath. We're going to extend one hand out, holding up on one hand and switching. Holding out. From here, we're going to go 1 foot up and next foot up. And again, through, one hand up, sucking that belly button to spine, switching, and again, switch down to the feet, 1 foot up, and again, Switching that foot up. Nice job. Back down. Laying all the way down onto our chest. We're going to go into our snow angels. So bringing our hands out in front. We're going to pick the hands and chest up off the ground, sweeping out to the side, flipping the hands over, coming around the back, and big broad stroke out again. Keeping our chest and hands up the whole time. Pulling those shoulders down towards the hips, squeezing that egg on the back. You imagine an egg sitting in the middle of your back. You want to try and squeeze that egg with your shoulders so that you pull those shoulders away from the ground, away from your ears, and down into the hips. And from here, we are resting. Good, nice job. We're going to stay lying in this prone position for our prone overhead press. So getting our hands down by our shoulders, elbows pointed to the toes. So pointing down, we're going to pick our hands and elbows up with our chest. Extend the hands straight out, up above the head, and back down towards the shoulder. Keeping the hands off the floor and the chest up. We're going to move through that same motion. Extending the hands out, up overhead, and back. Make sure we're squeezing that egg through the back the whole time. Working through real good shoulder mobility here. Couple more. And done. Good. Next up, we've got our glute bridges. So flipping over onto our back, we're going to get our feet flat, our heels brought into our hips. And from here, we're going to drive our hips up into the ceiling, creating a nice flat line from the shoulder through the hips to the knees. Holding up at the top for about 10 seconds. And then slowly lowering the hips down, giving a little tap at the bottom and coming back up. Holding up at the top for about 10 seconds. Slowly lowering down, feeling that tap at the bottom and coming back up. Holding. Sucking that belly button to spine, getting all those lower abdominals engaged, and lowering back down and relaxing. Good. Next up, we're standing up onto our feet for our single leg RDLs or our kickstand RDLs. So bending that knee, getting a slight bend, and using our toes as just a little balancing reference. We're going to swing our hips back behind us, sticking the hips out, lowering the chest down nice and flat, and coming back up. Once we get to that 90 degrees, we want to snap back up into that position. Giving a nice load and stretch through that planted leg. Swinging those hips back and behind us. And switching sides. Driving those hips back, trying to get that chest parallel, keeping our back flat. We're not rounding out. Couple more. And last one. Good. All right, next up, we've got those eccentric squats with a hold at the bottom. So we're gonna get our feet about hip width apart, hands out in front, and we're gonna go slow, 2, 3, 4, hold at the bottom, and come back up. So we're getting about a 3-second hold at the bottom as we come down, and then straight back up. So lowering, loading, getting those hips back, getting the weight over the heels, holding at the bottom, and driving up. Slow lower down, holding, and driving up. Couple more. Making sure we're getting that weight over the midpoint of the foot, sucking the belly button to spine. Last one. Good. All right. Next up, we have our side squats. So standing with our feet a little bit wider than hip width. We're going to lower those hips down onto one knee, keeping the weight over the midpoint of the foot and coming back up. Switching to the other side and sliding back and forth. Nice, even pace, moving from side to side, keeping that weight over the midpoint of the foot, trying to keep that chest nice and tall as we move back and forth, side to side. Couple more. Sucking that belly button to spine, keeping that core nice and engaged. And done. Good. Next up, we're back at the top, doing our eccentric push-up with our rotation. So hands down, knees on the ground. We're going to lower the chest, tucking our elbows to the ribs, getting that nice even strength through the chest, and pressing back up into a rotation, lowering down. Switching sides as we rotate up, sucking that belly button to spine, nice even lowering, and rotating through. Just a few more. Lowering down. And last one. Very good. Next up, we've got our plank extension. So keeping those hands down on the ground, we're going to extend the feet back, hop up into our pillar plank, and bring one hand up, extending out in front, switching sides, other hand out, bringing that foot up, and switching the foot, coming up, back up to the hands, and switching, down to the foot, and again, switching, and lowering down. Very good. Next up, we have our snow angels. So, how do I fix this? There we go. Our snow angels. So down on our chest. Gonna get our hands out in front of us, picking the hands and chest up. We're gonna sweep out wide, flipping those hands around the back, pulling the shoulders down, crushing that egg through the middle, and coming back around. Keeping those hands and chest up the whole time. like big sweeping motions, pressing those fingertips out as far as they'll go. Trying to keep those shoulders low and away from the ears. Last one, coming back down around the hips and up. Very good. Now we got our hands by the sides next to the shoulders. We're going to pick the hands and forearms up, squeezing that egg through the back and extending the hands up overhead. Lowering back down and extending back up. Moving back and forth. Pressing those fingertips straight up and out overhead. Keeping that egg crushed through the back. Shoulders nice and low. Away from the ears. And rest. Whew, good job. Next up, heading into those glute bridges. We're gonna lay flat on our back, bringing the heels into the hips. From here, we're gonna drive our heels down into the ground, bringing those hips up, popping up onto the back of our shoulders, creating a nice flat line from shoulder through the hip to the knee, and slowly lowering down nice and evenly through both feet, tapping down at the bottom and coming straight back up. Engaging those lower abs, sucking the belly button to spine, and lowering back down, slowly dropping the hips, tapping at the bottom and coming back up. Holding up at the top, creating that flat line. We're going to get a little bit of an extra hold here for our last one. Keep those hips up, keep those hips up. And slowly lowering down to the ground, relaxing. All right, next up, we have those single leg RDLs. So we are back on our feet, bending one knee, using our kickstand, our toes supporting that weight just ever so slightly. From here, we're going to drive the hips out, keep the chest tall and strong, flat back, snapping back up, lowering that chest down, driving the hips back, and coming up. Swinging those hips straight back behind us, and coming back up. Nice, even pace, controlled. Swinging those hips straight back, getting into those hamstrings. Go ahead and switch sides. Lowering the chest down to parallel and coming back up. Couple more. And done. Good. Next up, we've got our eccentric air squat holds. So feet hip width apart. We're going to extend the hands out as we come down, slowly lowering the hips, keeping the weight over the heel, holding at the bottom and coming straight back up. Lowering down, keeping those hands out front, driving through the middle of the foot. I want you guys to pay attention to your knees here. They should be tracking over that second middle toe. So the toe right next to your big toe is right where the middle of the knee should be coming out. And as you come back up, it needs to stay straight in line. So if you notice you're bending in or spreading outward on your squat, try and think about how you can keep those knees straight. Couple more, holding at the bottom and driving up. Last one. Good. All right, next up, we've got our side squats. Last exercise, really make it count. Getting our feet nice and spread and lowering our hips down to one side, squatting back up. Keeping that belly button sucked up to spine. Weight over the middle of the foot as we drive those hips back up. Back and forth. Nice and slow, controlled pace. Trying to really focus on form, keeping that chest up, belly button sucked to spine, back remains flat. Going back and forth. A few more. And relax. Very good. Finish with the workout portion, or I guess the strength portion of the workout. And we're gonna head into some stretching here. So with the squats, we can really get some activation through the quads. So we're gonna go ahead and do a hurdler stretch, pulling that ankle back towards the hip on the outside and lowering our back down, either supported by the shoulders, or if you can, trying to lower your back all the way to the floor. Being careful with the tension there. Getting a nice stretch through the front of the thigh and the hip flexor. Starting to breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth, big, long, controlling breaths. Trying to get our heart rate back down, trying to get oxygen into those muscles. And rolling out to the side, extending the leg out and folding that ankle back to the hip and lowering down once again. Taking nice deep breaths, feeling that tension and getting it to submit, trying to find that release of the muscle. As you start to feel tension, your body starts to panic because you think it's a problem if it overextends, and we just need to signal to the body that it's okay. It's fine for the muscles to be at that length, and just kind of relax them out, give them a chance to stretch and release that tension that they're holding. All right, and rolling out to the side, extending that leg up. We're gonna flip over and hop into our thread the needle stretch, working through the back and the shoulders here. So getting down onto our hands and knees, we're gonna drop one arm through underneath the armpit, getting that shoulder down to the ground and laying on top of the shoulder, extending the fingers out in front. Nice deep breaths. You should be feeling a pull through the shoulder blade, through the middle back. Stretching and lowering. And rotating up, sliding that hand back to its starting position. Bringing the other arm down and through, dropping that shoulder to the ground. And rotating back up to our starting position. All right, you guys, thank you so much for hopping in today. I hope you enjoyed the session, getting a little bit of full body strength work in and some good mobility in different planes. If you have anything that you guys would like me to do that we didn't cover today, or anything that you absolutely hated that you never want to see again, go ahead, give me a shout. These classes are for you guys and we want to make them the best possible. So thank you so much. Check out all of the other classes we got on our SharePoint and our YouTube channel for any amazing workouts throughout the week. Have a great rest of your day and an awesome weekend.
Good class. Thank you. Thank you, Quinn.